You're listening to Two Mics and a Guest, a podcast of people's stories and the career pathway that led them to where they are. And now your hosts, Michael Holliday and Mike Young. Welcome, everybody, to Two Mics and a Guest. I am one of your hosts, Michael Holliday. Joined with me is, of course, as always,
Mike Young. Good to be here.
Mike, how are we doing today?
We're doing great. It's got a great day, great guest here. Looking forward to this.
Absolutely. Who do we have here with us?
We have Dr. Katrine Stevens, our fearless leader.
Easily the most super guest we've had so far.
Well done.
Dad joke with a guy that has no kids.
Well done.
That's true.
He's learning early, you know.
Sorry, Mike. Go ahead. Who we got?
That was dad joke.
That was bad.
Way.
I couldn't help it.
No, so happy for you to take some time. I know you're busy, but I appreciate you coming out and joining us on the podcast.
I'm really excited to be here. I have listened to every podcast, yes. And I will say it has been really interesting to learn about people, their career paths, some of the things they would have advised themselves as younger people, and just their pathways in general. I mean, it really has been fantastic to listen and learn. And I think this will have a tremendous impact on our young learners as we prepare them for the next step.
That's really what we hope. I mean, it's been interesting hearing the diversity of stories, but then the common themes that keep coming up. And so we're excited about it. Really appreciate you being here. Now, I'm going to start. I mean, you've got an interesting story of how you got here, but what does a day in the life of the director of schools in Tullahoma City look like? I'm just curious.
So,
I'm sure all the days are always the same, right?
Yes. No. I come in at the same time, and the order of operations is the same every day.
9 to 5.
That's a great question. The simple answer is no day looks the same as the one before. My favorite part of any day is being with students. So if I come to the virtual academy, I like to poke my head in and engage with students. Anytime I go out to one of our buildings, that's my joy. That's why I became an educator so long ago. So that's the best part of any day is being in the schools. Many days are filled with meetings or gatherings with a variety of people. That can be people within the district, that can be community members, just engaging in healthy conversations around what's important in the lives of students, how can we best help them as they grow and move on outside of K-12 into their next step. So each day is an adventure, and I love it.
Well, I was thinking about it as we were preparing. I believe, I would assume Tullahoma City Schools, the system, is probably the biggest employer in Tullahoma, I would think.
I would think it is one of the top employers. That's true.
In the county, I know manufacturing is probably our biggest employer, and we have other things. But also the resource, the privilege of educating the children of our city is a big deal.
It is a privilege.
And it goes across all lines, right?
That's exactly right. This is an amazing community, and I have enjoyed my year and a half here and couldn't imagine being anywhere else. And what a year and a half it's been.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, when I interviewed for this role, we were not in a pandemic.
Nope. No one saw it coming.
Right? When I was named, the board voted and named me. We were not in a pandemic. And then when I signed my contract, voila.
The timing. Oh, wow. I can only imagine.
Wow. The thoughts. But I believe I was intended to be here at this time.
Well, I mean, that's part of it. And there's some things I really want to get to as far as your education background, because one, you don't have a course in how to lead a school system in a pandemic. we don't know, but none of us have had that thing, right?
No.
And so there's some, one of the things we talk about in my role here, I'm a career and graduation coach. We talk about agilities with our students, and a lot of times we think about that in an athletic standpoint, but it's also being agile enough to thrive in whatever situation you're placed in, right? And being able to be agile enough to do that. And I'm sure you've had to exercise
So
those muscles,
I almost
right?
view that as the word I would use is pivot. You have to be able to pivot. And there is agility there to being able to move yourself and navigate something new and adjust. So yes, I think within any career, within life in general. So let's say not thinking about career, just life in general.
For sure.
You have to be able to respond to what is happening and adjust, pivot, be agile. Absolutely. I totally agree. And I would say, my father is 87, and I remember talking to him a couple years back and saying, Dad, what advice do you have? How would you guide me? And to hear him say, I've never lived in anything like this. No one had any experience. When I had superintendents who are mentors for me and reach out to them, again, no one had any idea. And so you have to be able to think quickly yet thoughtfully and be able to move, navigate, pivot.
Yep.
Well, we always laugh at the question that kids have. My kids had, why do we have to learn this stuff? And it's building that muscle that you're talking about, being able to solve these problems, whatever's placed in front of you, and then use your gifts and abilities, not someone else's, use yours to be able to adapt to it. So.
And I'm incredibly proud of how we have navigated this pandemic in Tullahoma City Schools. Incredibly proud. It has taken everyone from the broader community, our families, teachers and staff and students, and we continue to navigate in a healthy, positive way.
Right.
The learning curve was high, the stress was high, the anxiety was high, but we really did push through that, keeping grounded on what is best for students. And that's been our focus. And proud. That's the big word for me.
The fear of the unknown, the way that things come up in a situation like that is, I can only imagine from your seat, had to have been so challenging. So hats off to you on that.
Thank you. Lots of conversations held over this time, as you can imagine, one-on-one, group, etc. But there's been a lot to talk about as we have navigated this experience.
Well, and you've alluded to it. You've had mentors that we're learning this as we go. You have a very interesting story. Born in Sweden.
Yes, Stockholm.
With a military family. I mean, so you've traveled a lot. I visited Sweden. I went to Copenhagen as a college student. My dad was working over there. And then we took the bridge across, across from Copenhagen. It was Malmo. Is that how you say it?
Could be.
We drove up the coast.
It's been a long time since I've been there.
We drove up the coast and then crossed the ferry back over. It was, anyway, I enjoyed it. Yeah. Now, you're born in Sweden. How long were you there?
Not very long. We resided in Europe, areas in Europe, for about 5 years. Then my dad and mom came over here to the United States. She is French. That's right. She actually became an American citizen in the 90s, which was wonderful for her. So my brothers and I, obviously, we both had, if you will, dual citizenship, right? Because we had parents from different countries. We all spoke multiple languages as youngsters. Wow. When I came to the United States, we came to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, where my grandmother was, my dad's mom. And the memory that she shared with me, and of course I don't recall, but it's a beautiful story. She was taking me for a walk. Her granddaughter, born on her birthday, really special. And I saw flowers. And I was speaking a sentence. In each word I used a different language because I did not know. You could not mix languages. But the last word I used was fleur. She knew flower. So she was able to acknowledge and pick up a flower. And she recalled that story, and it stays with me to this day, just the way that we communicated and bonded. And as you can tell, my English has come along.
I was about to say.
And quite honestly, as a young person, I let go of those languages. I might say I rebelled because in my family, they spoke French and German absolutely all the time. And so as a youngster, I decided to learn Spanish so that I could possibly speak something someone didn't necessarily know. However, I did not realize how keenly connected languages are, so it didn't really work.
Now, have you been able to hang on to some of those? Not to put you on the spot, but
so
you got to speak them.
You do have to speak them, and your brain has to be at work translating and thinking about the organization and structure of the language. So the honest answer is no. There is a song that I sing. I've sung to my children. I sing to my grandchildren. That is French. It is a song I've heard, and my mother sang to me, so that I still have. I obviously have an accent that remains, so when I engage in language, my sound is fairly authentic because I have an ear for sound. So with Spanish, habla español un poquito, necesita más prácticas de español. So when I speak Spanish to individuals here in the community, they hear that I have a fairly accurate sound, and then oftentimes release and speak very fluently and quickly, and I have to ask them to please slow down and repeat. I can pick up key words. That is the language, the muscle that I stretch more than others. I enjoy French. I am amazed that I can understand it at times. For example, my husband and I took a great trip to Jackson Hole and Yellowstone several years ago, and I wanted us to have a photograph together, and there was a gentleman there. So I just handed him my phone and asked him to take a photograph, and he spoke French and essentially said, I'm not really good at taking photographs. And I responded in English, "You'll be just fine. Hold this and click the button." And then it hit me. I understood what he said. I understood what he said because he was speaking in French. And that aha was really interesting to me. So those moments still happen. So I believe that language is still there. I haven't flexed it. I haven't used it. Therefore, it's dormant, for lack of a better word.
Sure.
It's something later in life I believe I will pick up and explore and play with yet again.
I bet.
I traveled a couple of jobs ago in Europe a good bit, and I always felt handicapped with my, it's the old joke where multiple languages, you're bilingual, trilingual, American, one language is an American. That's what they say over there.
Yes.
But it's the ability to engage with someone in their language like that, or at least acknowledge it, is huge.
Yes.
And it just makes a connection. And I'm always envious of those close-knit countries over there with the different languages and cultures just mixed like that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I find that with Spanish, when I'm able to engage in families or with children. Right. Recently chatted with, actually yesterday, a couple of students at the high school who are from Spain, and I was able to communicate briefly with them, and just the eyes that lift and the acknowledgement that there's effort toward speaking a language that's most familiar to them, much like they're taking tremendous effort speaking English while they're here. So I do enjoy the connection and the bonding that happens when you're willing to attempt a language of sorts. As a teacher, you will meet and engage with students who come from various backgrounds and have very unique names. Names have always been important to me, and pronouncing them correctly matters. Yep. My name is a perfect example of the why of that. It appears to be Catherine, exactly the way people here would say and spell Catherine with a C. However, my name is Katrine. And so wanting people to recognize when they see that name and they think of me, it sounds different than it looks. What that is it is American spelled and French pronounced. See, I was named after the actress Catherine Deneuve. Oh, yes. So they knew I had this potential to be theatrical, and it was a part of my life that I truly enjoyed. And as a teacher, if you know anything about teaching, you are in theater every day.
Absolutely.
Every day. How you engage and inspire and excite. And so it's a quality or characteristic I always used.
I just think even in the United States, we have obviously folks that speak differently. We have a large Spanish-speaking population around everything else.
Yes.
But in some ways, the cultures that we come from our families, are different languages as well. The skill you learn in doing that helps connect whether the language is common or not, right?
Absolutely.
So I think that's
absolutely.
You got me. I'm going to buying Rosetta Stone when we leave here today.
Okay.
I've got to do
All
it.
right. Which language will you be studying?
I have no idea. Well, I joke with Mike. Mike's from Louisiana, so he's probably bilingual as well. He speaks Cajun.
Hey. Oh, I have my favorite book is Petite Rouge Riding Hood, and it is a Cajun tale, and I enjoy reading that to students. It's that French Cajun flair.
I did not pick it up. My dad worked in the oil fields, but I had friends whose grandparents only spoke French.
Yes.
They attempted to bring French into the schools. It's different than Cajun French, but again, some of it was the rebellion of the kids. I'm not going to do that. That's my grandpa's language and grandma's language. But we did have folks like that.
Yeah,
and
I'm sure.
My wife says the accent does come back if I go back down the bayou.
I guarantee
I bet it does. I bet it does. My accent, I tend to morph depending on where I am. I pick up the sound if I'm in a location for an extended time. And that just really happens with an ear that's been exposed to different language. That's my opinion anyway.
We're the same way. When we go up north, my mother is from the northern Michigan.
Yes.
So the Upper Peninsula.
Oh, yeah.
And if you've ever seen the movie Fargo, it's very similar to that. It's very, they call them Upers because they're from the UP, the Upper Peninsula. And it's a whole different dialect. And she's lived down here for 30 plus years.
Sure.
But when we go up to visit family, it's a light switch.
Yes.
And some of those O's become long O sounds.
Absolutely.
And you did it.
Yeah. Well, I've been around it too. But and they say, like, we're long I's. So like July or I sound.
Yes.
But up there it's long O. And it's so interesting to see how those vowel sounds change regionally.
That's right.
But she can flip right back into it, and it's amazing.
Language is fascinating.
Yep.
It truly is.
Now, what language did they speak at West Virginia in the Hokies? I'm just asking.
In Blacksburg, Virginia.
Not
West
right,
Virginia.
That's right.
Southwest Virginia. They speak English. And we have a cheer that we do that I'm sure you'll want to hear. And it goes like this.
Here we go.
Hokey, 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 high, tech, tech, VPI, Solar Rec, Solar Ra, Polytech, Virginia, Ray, Ra, VPI, go tech. That is how we speak.
Whoa.
That is
and
great.
I was just there Saturday.
Were you? Okay.
I was. If you're ever have an opportunity
That's what
to
I've
be
heard.
in Lane
The
Stadium,
atmosphere there.
it's electric.
It looks like it on TV.
It's electric. There is nothing like it. My husband and I brought our daughter and son-in-law, and he was amazed at the feeling and the sound.
Oh, yeah.
The camaraderie is humongous among the crowd that's there to support the team. Yeah. Although we lost, it did not take away the beauty and excitement of the event.
That fan base is still high energy no matter what.
And I didn't mean to offend you with the word.
Nothing.
Because it was offensive. I know how college football is.
That's right.
No, we actually had LSU has played there. I had some friends that went, and we love to brag about our atmosphere, but they loved it. They had a blast, and they just loved the atmosphere there.
It's incredible.
So what's a Hokie?
So a Hokie is a fighting gobbler. That was really the original name. It's obviously a turkey.
Right.
But a Hokie, by true definition, how we were trained in Virginia Tech, truly can be anything you want it to be. Anything you want it to be. And in Virginia Tech, a Hokie is a fighting gobbler.
Yeah.
There you go.
The mascot definitely resembles of the turkey family.
Yes, yes, he does. Yes, he does. And, of course, I had my picture with Hokie Bird.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yes.
So now you majored in elementary ed there, right? That's
Yes.
where you started. Now, what did you know you wanted to major in that when you went to college? Or
Yes. So I would say my path is interesting in that I always knew I loved children. I had this sort of gravitation to being around young children. So I was babysitting at a young age, and I was always playing. And everything was an opportunity for a lesson. If we were eating alphabet soup, I'm pulling letters. So innately, teaching was a part of who I was. I didn't necessarily recognize that meaning, I will be a teacher. Right. But as I look back, I see that connection. When I was growing up, so my parents divorced at a young age, the three of us, stayed with our dad, which was unusual in that time in the 70s. Right. And I was trying to figure out who I was and making some decisions that might not have been in the best interest of myself or, just kind of figuring out who am I and what do I want to do. There was a teacher in middle school, Rick Lehman, who made a tremendous impact on me because he saw me. And what I mean by that, I was a student who attempted to disengage, attempted to withdraw and sit quietly, head down. I was there.
The introvert.
I was present.
Yeah.
I would do the work,
Right.
but I just wanted to be not observed, if that makes sense.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And in middle school, that's a time when you are really trying to think about, who am I? What am I going to be and do? And he saw me. And so he would get down on his knee beside my desk and get me to pick my head up and look at me and talk with me about me.
Yeah.
Not necessarily about pre-algebra.
Right.
We would get there. He would nurture in me my aptitude for mathematics.
Yep.
He would see me in the hallway, and we just connected, and that was 7th grade.
And we call that now social emotional learning now.
That
we have a
is
term
correct.
for it. But back then, it was just being humanistic and
That's right.
connecting with someone.
He was a relationship builder
Yep.
with students. So after that 7th grade year, within where I was going to school in Pennsylvania, there was a transition to a new school. And it was going to be an intermediate school. So I was really anxious leaving middle school, going to an intermediate
Right.
school. It's the first year, you're colliding with lots of people you don't know. And I walked into my Algebra 1 class, and guess who my teacher was?
No way.
Rick Lehman. Wow. So we continued to stay connected and stayed connected all the way through college, and even when I came to Tullahoma City Schools as superintendent.
Really?
He got that information straight from me. So he has been a constant in my life who really made a difference. What I recognized, I put together, I really like children. I really like helping.
Right.
He made a difference in my life, and I connected the two and realized I'm going to be a teacher.
Yep.
Which, by the way, my grandmother, whose birthday I was born on, had always wanted to be a teacher. She was born in 1900 and wasn't able to be a teacher. So in some ways, she lived vicariously through me. Right. So I was a teacher. And it was automatic. Now, I was a double major at Virginia Tech my first year in voice, so in the music area, and in education. I actually had a scholarship, a small one, for voice. However, I discovered that to double major, I would be there for 6 years. And although at the time I liked the notion of being at Virginia Tech, I wasn't quite sure that 6 years was going to be what I wanted to do.
Right.
So I dropped voice and realized I can always sing.
Right.
It's just a part of who I am. I don't necessarily have to have that major. Right. And I really wasn't, when I double majored initially, I wasn't thinking that voice was going to be something I would do. It was more about enhancing and strengthening the quality of voice. And I loved it.
Yep.
I absolutely loved it. So I ended up simply being a teacher. And I actually majored in early childhood education. So my focus actually was on our earliest learners, including toddlers and preschool age. So that's where I started. At Virginia Tech in our senior year, we student taught the entire school year, and we student taught in 3 sections. So I was able to student teach at middle school. I was able to student teach 2 placements in elementary, and then I was certified through 8th grade.
Okay.
But when I entered the teaching field in Virginia Beach, that was my first year of teaching because I needed the bumper sticker, I teach at the beach. That was very important to me.
That's a
and that
great
is how a 21-year-old makes a decision, right? I taught 5th grade. I took the very first opportunity. It was an early decision. I was actually given a contract my senior year of college to go to Virginia Beach Public Schools. The principal came and did some recruiting, and he, in that first year of teaching, said to me, "You're going to be a principal one day." And I thought, oh, no. I will be a teacher for my entire career. This is what I love, and this is what I want to do.
And you wanted to be like the person who influenced you.
Correct. What I realized over time is a leader sets the tone for a building and for students to thrive, and actually plays a powerful role in making a difference in the lives of children. So over time, I did indeed add some degrees. I became an administrator in a school, and then once I became a principal, I thought, oh, I'm done. Wow, I have reached the pinnacle of my career.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But then I once again realized there are district leaders who greatly impact principals, who greatly impact teachers and staff, who greatly impact students. And I began to understand the power of the ripple effect of leadership. And after earning my doctorate, I then stepped into district leadership as an assistant superintendent, and then voila, here I am.
And that was in Franklin, correct?
That was in Franklin, Franklin Special. And much like Tullahoma, I did not know anyone in that school district at the time. I was in Murfreesboro. I was a principal there. And I saw the job. Actually, a mentor of mine provided the job description to me and gave me a message that essentially said, this was written for you. And I was at a time in my career, I knew that I would not be returning as principal the following year. And I had actually already told my director of schools, I want to be up front with you. I really don't want this to be public, but I need you to know I feel pulled somewhere. I just don't know where that is. And so I had a couple of opportunities, actually, that I was able to select what was the best fit for me and make that decision. And it was clearly, at the time, Franklin Special. And so I was there for 8 years in an assistant superintendent role. I learned from a tremendous superintendent. He's certainly one of my mentors. And he and I were very similar in our philosophy and beliefs. Our personalities were a bit different, and so we really complemented one another beautifully.
Wow.
And honestly, when I was there, once again, I had the thought, that's it.
This is it.
I'm here.
I'm at the top.
I'm at here. Now, you kind of wonder, you've said that a few times now, right? But I felt a draw to come here in 2018. I didn't quite listen to that draw at the time, but I did listen later.
I feel like she's going to be mayor or president next. Like she's not going to. She's not even going to stop at director of schools at this point.
No,
we're going even higher.
No, because now I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
I've heard that before.
Took me 33 years to figure that out. Here I am. Yeah. So it's very interesting. Thinking about agility and being able to pivot, I have been able to connect and be a part of a school system, a community, an organization easily as an outsider. Part of that, I believe, comes from having a varied experience, a varied background. I enjoy people, I enjoy connecting, and I fit in genuinely very well. And I absolutely love every place I've been.
Yeah.
So I attribute that, and I'm thankful for the very interesting early years that I had and the different places that I've lived.
You built that skill through growing up.
It's life.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a skill that anybody can build if they choose to. Like we get. I talk to students a lot, the minute they walk off the stage at the high school for graduation, if they go to college or if they go to the military, they go to whatever, vocational technical schools, whatever, they're going to meet some people that are going to become their best friends that they didn't know before. Right?
Absolutely
Completely
true.
different thing.
Yes.
And that's, it's being open to that, right?
Yes.
Instead of, I don't know these people. It's, I don't know these people.
Yes, exactly.
It's a posture thing almost.
It is. And for me, I'm so thankful for the people along my path.
Right.
I have had many people to influence me, make a profound difference in me. There are quite a few that I'm still in touch with today.
You touched on that, yeah.
But I believe there are these seasons of time when you're with people and you enjoy every moment, and I truly do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious, and I think I've also spoken to students. I went away to college, and we've moved. I'm from Louisiana. We've lived in Texas, lived in Tennessee. And it's part of my background, so I was able to develop those muscles and kind of look for that. A couple of questions. Obviously, your travel and moving different places has helped that.
Sure.
But you've mentioned several mentors. That's a common theme that we've seen in our podcast so far. What would you tell a student? How do you develop a mentor?
Right.
Like, how do you identify someone that's going to be that person?
Absolutely. So I would say the first thing that you look for is, who do you feel connected to, have trust with, admire a talent that they have, something they're really good at. Maybe their thinking challenges you. Maybe it's different than what you think. And that is how you begin to develop these relationships. And through those relationships, mentorships evolve. So not everyone that you admire is
Right.
going to necessarily become a mentor, but over time, it becomes very clear who those individuals are. And so taking the time to get to know people and get to know people different than you, older than you, in a different area than you, because I have mentors who may not be in the field of education.
Right.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So it's not always thinking about what I want to be and do. This is the mentor I need to look for. Mentors provide you with character development. They provide you with a model. They provide you a resource, somebody to have an honest conversation. A mentor for me speaks truth to me. I don't always like what they say.
That's right.
I know.
Right?
But we
That's
need
right.
it.
Absolutely.
But we
right.
need it.
Yes. And I mentor others. I feel very strongly that that's a part of my role and responsibility. And I always remember, speak truth. Even when it may not be exactly what that person wants to hear, you just really have to demonstrate care by speaking the truth. Individuals have to make their own decisions.
That's right.
But you take in the thoughts and ideas of mentors to help you determine what's my next step.
On the topic of mentor, I would be remiss if I didn't mention this. Growing up as a student, one of the teachers that impacted me the most is actually someone still very big in our education system here locally, Kim Usselton.
Yeah.
She was that teacher for me that you mentioned earlier that knelt by my desk. You said, what's going on? Let's talk about stuff. Kim Usselton is one of the best treasures that we have here locally. And as a youth, I went to St. Paul's Catholic school here in town. It's no longer around, but she was there, and I remember just being someone like a parent that I could lean on. And
Absolutely.
And it was kind of foreign before that.
Yes.
Like some of my teachers before that were a little bit more structured, a little bit more just education only. And she was that first teacher to me that was like, oh my gosh, this person really cares.
Yes. You had a connection with her, trust with her, and that brought something really powerful to you.
It did, yep.
Which is amazing. And my hope is all students have at least one person in their life like that. My hope is more, of course.
Yeah,
but how amazing that one person for you, that one person for me in my K-12 journey had such, and continues to have such a profound impact in my life.
I think we see that with Miss Carter was in here taping a video yesterday for the course, and she asked about my children, who she taught all of them in math. And that connection is there because it's calling, right? This is what we do. I think it's interesting, too. You talked about your middle school teacher. I forgot his name.
Rick Lehman.
Rick Lehman, how he saw you.
Yes.
That is also a skill that can be developed to see the people around you in a way.
That's right.
And figure out, where they're coming from.
Yes.
It's such an important thing in education. And I think it's interesting that he modeled that for you. He earned the right to tell you the truth, right?
That's right.
And that's an important thing too. We can't just assume the right to tell someone the truth. You earn that right by the relationship.
Oh, absolutely. I think when you are around people, being present where your feet are and being very open to the thoughts and ideas of others is a way that you acknowledge and demonstrate value to that person and their thoughts and ideas. Does not mean your thoughts and ideas are exact or agree, but when people feel valued, they feel seen, they feel heard, there's something powerful in that.
No doubt.
And I think that is a critical skill that many educators have.
That's right.
And use. That's a muscle they flex because they have a lot of opportunity to engage in that way.
I do think you just mentioned something I think is important as well about being present.
Yes.
I think so many students and all of us, frankly, we always looking for that next thing and we miss where we're at sometimes.
Yes. That's right.
And that's actually the present is where we develop those muscles, right?
That's right. That's right.
Actual being there.
Yes. Be present where your feet are is a saying that I say to myself and to others. We have distractions now in our hands sometimes, or maybe even on our wrist sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And so I make very intentional decisions to disengage with things that will distract me when I am in the presence of people, having a meeting, having a conversation. And I believe in today's time, people recognize that. They recognize when you are demonstrating care and that eye contact is consistent and constant, right? So that's a challenge that many of us deal with day to day. I would say our young people really struggle with the reality of social media, that phone in hand, texting, all the things. Those things become distracting and take you away from being present because you're always thinking about what's the communication I'm waiting on, what's the event that's going to happen. Where are you right now? Sit there for just a moment and be present.
I think that's an important thing too. And this isn't just old people saying, oh, that social media is a bad thing. It's going to be here. It's going to be part of what we're doing.
Yes.
It can be a great tool.
Absolutely.
I think it's powerful
in
many ways.
I do too. And so learning that skill of being present and the sense of not being distracted, the sense of being in this place is an important thing. It's even magnified now, not because social media is evil. It's because we have these other distractions and we have these things and we miss out on where we're at. Right?
Being present is critical. It really is. Be where your feet are. Be in that moment.
That's a great thing.
Now, it's interesting in a couple of things. When you said you got your doctorate of education in learning organizations and strategic change.
Yes.
While you didn't have a class in being in a pandemic, I would think a lot of the things you learned in that course of study has to do with it because our organization had to learn how to do a pandemic.
Absolutely.
That's part of what we had to do.
Yes.
Can you speak to that, of that program? It sounds very interesting to me.
Oh, it was a tremendous program, and I happened to be in the initial cohort of that doctoral program back in 2010. And it was a 2-year intensive. And the notion of learning organizations and strategic change is really about pivoting. It's really about engaging the voice of many to create the right direction. So you all realize we've been working on a strategic plan for Tullahoma City Schools and taking in feedback to make decisions about where are we going, what are the focuses. It doesn't take away from standard annual goals or annual plans, but what is it we need to focus on over the course of several years? So that particular degree certainly set up many of us who participated in that to be able to think differently and to be able to engage with challenges and be able to proactively determine steps to make. So some of the first things I did was engage right away with community members here. So you learn when you're thinking about strategic change, when you're thinking about an organization, you're thinking about a pandemic, what is it I need to listen to, think about, and determine so I can make a decision, right? And it's rare that you will hear me use that word, I ultimately know in this role, I am the director of schools, but I'm a we person.
So we,
And so
it takes a village.
It does. And engaging the voice of many is the way in which I lead. And that does have impact on strategic change.
And this program was through Lipscomb University, is that correct? Okay.
It was, yes. And they have morphed that program. I mean, they have some really neat offerings. They have a fully online virtual option. How about that?
There we go.
Very progressive. So it's been exciting to be a part of that. I've taught at that in those courses as well over time. So I'm very thankful for the opportunity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What was something you'd say to your younger self?
$1 million question. We ask everybody.
Be kind to yourself.
It's a big one.
Listen less to the voice of negativity and critique, and listen more to those who encourage and see worth and potential.
Right.
Block out the noise and listen to the truth. That's pretty powerful. And that's great advice because, again, we can be distracted by so many things.
Yeah.
And we can see so many negative things in the news, or that we're just exposed to just so much that being able to filter that is very important. I agree fully. I
was talking to somebody the other day how when I was in middle school, I didn't know what parties I wasn't invited to, right? Now we have all this noise that we're talking about, and that's the downside of what we're talking when we talk about social media and those kind of things. but we get to choose the voices that are important to us. Go back to the mentorship thing, but just friendship thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's an important thing.
Absolutely. And I believe young people, I'm speaking to my younger self, I could easily listen to and grab onto the voice of critique or negativity.
Right.
And I wish I had, at a younger age, focused more on the positive, kind, good words, because you can take on that negativity and critique and begin to believe that.
Yeah.
And so I really would love to have been kinder to myself and have listened more to the good word as opposed to critique.
We see that often. If you can get 100 great comments, but then we hear the negative.
Isn't that
And
something?
we focus on that a lot. And I think
It
that's an
stings.
important
It's because it
skill.
stings more. I mean, it affects you more initially for that negativity. You see all the positive, or you hear a compliment, you're like, oh, that's great. But then you're like, but why is this person saying this? Like, why is it like it just kind of hits you different?
We've used that metaphor a lot about the muscle you exercise, but we have this selective hearing kind of thing going on. It stings more because we allow it to.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
Be kind to yourself.
That's right. And that's where that goes back to what you're talking about.
Focus on the positive.
Set those filters. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that country song. You wouldn't say that to a stranger. Don't say it to yourself, right? I mean, that's that thing.
It's true. It's true.
But that's true.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Was there anything that we didn't ask you or get to that you want to speak on? Or, I mean,
I would
you've given us so many great things already.
Yeah.
So.
I would like to remind everyone, you are not at your finish line.
Mm-hmm.
There is so much more that you are able to do and be, and don't lose sight of that. At any age, at any point in life, you can always invest and give back in new and original ways. So continue the pursuit of excellence and what's next for you, and how can you make a difference. So I just want to encourage everyone to stay going forward.
And your story is a great example of that. So we appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Mike, do you have anything else?
No, I think this was fantastic. I
do
really
too.
appreciate your time.
Yeah.
And I appreciate
Well, I
you
have a
coming
question for you all.
Oh, yes.
What would you say to your younger self,
Oh, okay.
Michael?
You're first.
The script is flipped. I would say that, and it's probably going to piggyback a little bit on what you said. I think that there is some self-doubt that we have about ourselves naturally.
Sure.
I really think to try new experiences. Don't be afraid. Don't be fearful of change. Change can be scary.
Yeah.
But I think just trusting that and being honest with yourself and just listening to the positive.
Absolutely.
But don't let fear kind of control any decisions that you make.
Yes.
I mean, it's vague, but I think I think
Absolutely.
that would be my answer.
What would you say?
Again, not to, very similar things. I changed majors in college. I thought I'd had to go down this path. My dad was a 35-year oil field guy, and I'm thinking, well, I've got to find that one career that's going to satisfy myself for the whole life. Yeah. And obviously, the world's changed. That's not normal path for anyone. Every change, I've had 4 or 5 different roles, completely different careers. And I've loved every one of them. Yeah. And I would want my younger self to kind of lean into that, get excited about that, because it's going to be, even the times when it just didn't work out, man, when I got to that other place and got to be present in it, and got to be a part of it, man, I met people I wouldn't have ever known. I did some things I didn't think I was going to be able to do. Wouldn't have even imagined it. And it was wonderful. And so lean into that.
Yes.
I mean, it is unknown. That's great. And it was exciting. So that's piggybacking off of what both of you said. I just think that's a skill and a thing that was always helpful for me. Yeah. It really was.
We're all on a journey.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there are many good things in store.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Dr. Stevens, thank you so much for being here. On behalf of Mr. Mike Young here, we thank you so much for being here. This has been 2 Mics and a Guest.